Hello everyone, in this video I will explain you how you can use Verse to make better maps and how you can create your own first Verse device. This video will be the basics of Verse, and then I will make a few other videos that make you more advanced. The first thing that you have to do is you need to click on this function and open the Verse Explorer. And this menu pops up, and in here we can create a new Verse file. I will name this lesson1_manager. Create just a normal Verse file. And in here, in our map folder, you can open it right here, or you can click on this. Now in here we see our Verse file. The first thing that I have to do is delete all the comments, and I will also delete the sprints. And then you have this. What we see here is a few libraries that are already implemented, but just keep it like this. And this is then our first function, which is an onBegin, and this function will be triggered when you start the game. This will do nothing, it will just pop up in the logs, so it's just for you as a developer. Now the first thing that I want you to understand is that after this we can add editables. Let's say a trigger. Let's say trigger spawn. So this is just the name of a trigger, and then we need to give it the name of the device, and that is, and you can do this by typing this format. Now we have a name of a trigger underscore spawn, and we have a device name. Minimize this, and then what we need to do is we need to drag this device inside the world, and this is our manager. And in here you can already see trigger spawn is in the device. So that's very simple. We see it right here. Now how can I connect this? Because now it doesn't do anything. You don't see anything here. Maybe you do if you're already in a world with a lot of devices. So what you need to do is you need to search in this folder, trigger, and you'll import it like this. Now the other thing that you can do, just so you can see, I'm gonna implement also a mutator zone. Just like that. And then if I click on this and I open this up, you will see that the trigger, so that's the trigger here, and that's the mutator zone. Let's put it in a folder, devices. You can see that the trigger is showing up and the mutator zone isn't. That's because we added this format, trigger device. Now you probably ask, how can I know that it's written like that? So for an editable, it's always, for an editable device, it's always this format. Now you can know this by simply going to here and control find, and then we can type in here trigger. And the first thing that already pops up is here, trigger device. And then you see this is the format. Let's say you want to have a mutator zone, just type it, and I already see here mutator underscore zone underscore device. So this is for the mutator zone device. Now let's say I want to add this one, then you just type a new editable. Let's say we name this mutator also for the spawn, for example. And then we type this format. We compile it by clicking on this. We minimize it, and we can see the mutator spawn pops up right here. And this can only be connected to the mutator, not to the trigger device. And that's how you can connect all the devices. So that's the first step. Now the second thing that we write here is we can also write, let's say, variables. And an integer is a single digit without a .0. That's a float. So let's say we have a money like this, and we also have a money now for now I call it float, and then we do this, and we can do this. We can also do not editable for, let's say, a boolean, and I will call this toggle the logic. Now if we compile this, you will see that those are also editable, so we can change this number to like 100, for example. We can change this to 10.0, we can toggle this on and off, and we can do things with it. So those are the editables. Let's say we want to make a system where if you walk in this mutated zone, this trigger goes off, for example. Now, how you would do this in Creative 1.0, you will click on this, you will add a function, then you will connect it to the mutated zone, and you will set this on player entering zone. So now this trigger goes off when a player enters this zone. Now I will launch this session, I will show you how this looks. Okay, now we are in game, and I forgot to toggle the mutated zone visibility on, but let's say we walk to this, you see the trigger goes off. If I end this game, you can see that it's just done with this simple Creative 1.0 function. So now we will do the same thing in code. To do this, the first thing that you have to do is you need to copy the name of the mutator zone that we will use. We will connect it to an event, and the name of the event is agent entering event. You can see this on this one. So if you click on here, you see on player entering zone. So it's like an agents entering event, but that's not the exact name. So how can we see the name? You can do this by control click on this, and now it will bring you to the Fortnite digest. In here we see all the inputs and output functions that you can use and that you can subscribe to. So we see the agents begin emoting event, agents end emoting event, and so on. And here we see the agents enterings event. That's the one that we need, so we copy this and we place it right here. .subscribe. And then in here we need to subscribe to a function. So let's say we name it on player entering, just like that. And then we do this void, just like that. And in here we can do whatever we want. So let's say we enters. So once an agent enters this mutated zone, this function will be triggered and it will print for us enters. Now you see that there is an error. You can hover over this. It expects a value of type agent, but we are using nothing. To do this, we need to insert an agent, and we do this by typing this thing. Now everything is good. This is the name of the agent, so we can give it something that we want, and this is the type. This is the most important thing. And this is just an agent is an animal, a player, a guard, and so on. That's an agent, and that's the name of that agent. Let's rename this to agent, and then what we will do is we will trigger this trigger. To do this, we do the same thing. We type the name, just click Control, click on this, and we will search what functions do we have. This is a subscribable like the agents entering event, but we have this thing, and this is a function that triggers the trigger. So we copy this and we will place it right here, and then we will place this name inside the brackets. So now if an agent enters the mutated zone, the trigger will be triggered for the agent that enters that mutated zone. We compile this. We can remove this thing. I will set this to visible. And now it will do the exact same thing as the connection that you can do with Creative 1.0. But this is something very easy. But now let's say we want to add something. Let's say we want to add an item granter. And I will just show you the same steps, how you can connect this to your verse code. So let's say we have the item granter. I will put it in the folder, devices, and I will add the item granter in the code. So the first step was give it a name. And then I need to find it. Let's say I don't know what it is. So let's search item granter, and here it is. You copy this thing, replace it, just like that. We can already compile this. We can add it in here, or we can use this thing and click it. Oh, and I also need to connect the trigger. Now is everything connected? And then in here we need to connect the item granter, and let's say I want to give an item as soon as the trigger triggers. So this can be done by the mutated zone, or it can be done if a player directly walks onto it, for example. It's just to practice a bit and to show you that it's the same thing. So that's why it's super easy to learn, because it's always the same structure that you follow if you make simple systems. You have to make a new function for that trigger, and we will subscribe on it as soon as the game begins. So just put it here, and let's type triggered event. That's here, and you can find it by clicking here, and it's this one. And then we do the same thing, .subscribe, and then we subscribe on the function. Let's say trigger is triggered. We paste the function right here, and it needs an agent. It's a void, and a void is just that it doesn't return anything. For example, if you use mathematical things, and it can be that you, let's say you activate the function and then it will give you a number, for example. But that's also for more advanced things that's not used at the beginning. So just like that, and then we will grant the item. So we need to have the item granter, and then we need to have the function. I don't know the function. We go to here. This is for item granted event, this is for event, this is for event. Those are functions, and then in here we see grants an item to an agent. So we copy this dot grant item to an agent. So this is the agent. And then now what we do is we subscribe on the trigger function. As soon as the trigger is triggered, this goes off, and this will grant the item. So this is the same thing as we do this grant item, click, and then connect it. That's the same thing, but in code. It's the same thing. But now you see there is an error. There is something wrong with it. And that's because a trigger can't use a simple agent, because a trigger can be triggered by also other things, like water and so on, and that's not an agent. So the first thing that you have to do is you need to check if the agent is an actual agent. That's one of the only one that has the weird agent check. Like all the other devices do have the same thing, that's only like this most of the time, but then this device, you need to check if it's an actual agent. So to do this, I make a little change here, and I type this before it. So it's like valid agent, but then shortened. So then what we do is we need to type this agent, and then we need to type another agent, v agent, and type this like that. And now it works. Now in here we check if that v agent is actually valid. If it's valid, then we can use agent, and then this function will go off. So now this works. And now we do the same thing that is right here in code. So then instead of having like all those weird connections, the only thing that I'm looking at is like, oh yeah, those are the connections and this is what's happening. But now let's show you why it's so useful. And let's say if you enter this zone, one of those goes off in a random order. Now how can we do this? I will just make a new thing right here that will have multiple triggers inside of it. And this is a very important editable function that is super useful, and that's actually why code is so useful. I will name this triggers, and then I will add this thing equal array, just like that. And before this we will place squared brackets, just like that. Now if I compile this, see it right here, and what I can do is I can add multiple elements inside as an array, and I can add all the triggers in this array. So now instead of connecting every single trigger, and then if something changes, change it again and again, I can just add those triggers without any connection, and then do all the connections and all the things that I want to do with it in the code. So it's super useful, super easy. So let's show you what I can do with it. What I'm going to do is we can do multiple things with it. This is a little bit more complex, but it will just give you a very good idea of what you can do with verse and why it's so useful. Let's say I want to trigger one trigger. Once the player entering this mutated zone, I can just do it like this. But let's say I want to trigger all the triggers. So what I then do is I introduce the for loop. And then what you do is most of the time you just enter the first letter of this thing. Or you can just do trigger and then do it like that. That's also possible. But I like to use the T. That's just way shorter. And then what we do is in here we can do something for every trigger in these triggers, in this array. So let's say I want to trigger all of them, just like that. And then I'm going to add the agent. So now if an agent enters this mutator zone, every single trigger will go off. Yeah, first of all, the first one will go off. So first of all, this one go off, and then straight afterwards, all those will go off together. So that's how you can do that. Now you also can make something where it's random, for example. So to do that, we will generate a random number, and that's where we add variables. So a variable is something that can change over time, but it's not an editable, so it's a fixed value at the beginning, and then you can change it afterwards in code. So let's say we name this number, and this number will be an integer, like that. Place something else, we will get random between 0 and 1. And this is just something that I know you can search it on the internet. That's how you can get a random int between 0 and 10. But let's say I want to have between 0 and 2, or between 1 and 3. Let's say that. And then this number will be generated as soon as the function is triggered. So the first time it can be a 1, the second time it can be 3, and so on. It's just random. And then we can check this number, and then we can say, okay, if it's 1, trigger the first trigger. If it's 2, trigger the second trigger, and so on. This is spelled correct, but it's giving an error. And that's because we can see here, we are missing a digest. We need to use this one. So you can copy it, and we place it right here, and then the error goes away. Just show you this so you understand why we are using those things. You never need to type them by hand. Just do the coding. If you see something like this appears and you see that you forgot a digest, just copy it and place it. That's why I showed you this one. For some mathematical things, for some other things, it's also another digest, and then you just need to add it and it's fixed. What we can do then is we can IDX. So what we will get is we get the IDX of in this array. It's a number of how the triggers are ordered. So in here, if you go to this, we see index 0, index 1, index 2. Those are actually just the numbers in which order you placed those triggers. So this one has index 0, this one 1, and this one 2. So for that reason, I generate a number between 0 and 2, but this is a total of 3 numbers. So the 0, the 1, and the 2. So those numbers will be generated with this function. I will remove this for now, and then in here we will check every single trigger in this array, and they will be numbered from 0 to 1. So the first trigger will be 0, the second one, and so on. Then we will check if the IDX is equal to number. And if so, then you will trigger that trigger. And I will also just print the IDX that is triggered. And to do this, we need to use curly brackets, just like that. That's for entering a variable, because we can name this whatever we want. Then we just need to change all those things. But most of the time you name this IDX or you name this I. So now you can already see why we are using verse. It's if you want to do something like this. So let's test this in game and I will show you what's happening. Right, now we are in game and you can see right here, if I enter this, you see index 0 on the left side on my screen. Index 2, index 2, I mean 1. 0, 1, 2, and so on. Thanks for watching. In the next video I will explain you how you can make your own custom player and how it works with persistables. And with that system you will be able to make shops, check if a person has enough money, if not he can't buy it, and so on. I hope you enjoyed this first video. Have a nice day guys, bye bye.